Hey everybody, welcome to the Pixar Post live Google Hangout where we can talk about Toy Story 4, the grand announcement from today, pretty crazy stuff. And joining us is actually Dan the Pixar fan from his website, danthepixarfan.com. So Dan, go ahead and say hello.
Hey everyone, once again, here we are.
And Dan, I have to give credit to, is the one that tipped us off. He sends me a message and says, "Hey, are you watching Twitter right now with this Pixar news?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Toy Story 4." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" Every time there's a major announcement,
we're at the grocery store.
We're at the grocery store, and it's the same grocery store
every single time.
Is that what happened today?
Yes.
Yeah.
We were just getting back from the grocery store.
That happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, you would have seen it in a matter of seconds anyway, so I can't take too much credit.
Yeah,
well, what's crazy is he usually never goes grocery shopping with me, but the two times that he does, it's like a big announcement, Pixar news.
See, it's a reason.
Something big too.
It's a reason I shouldn't go, right?
I don't think he's going with
me. No, I think
anymore.
you should go. I think you should be going grocery shopping so these news announcements happen more often.
Oh, well that's another good way to look at it too. Okay, so that brings us in. Jeff is our other guest this evening, and Jeff has been on multiple times as well. So Jeff, go ahead and say hello. This is Jeff from thisdayinpixar.com.
Yeah, hello, and yeah, this is exciting. This is big news.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can see, I'm obviously wearing to prepare for this, my Toy Story shirt. And this is all Toy Story 3 related. And then I've got underneath my Toy Story 3 shirt. But I felt like I needed to upgrade a little. So I handled that, and I created an alternate already. So I'm ready for today's show.
Look at you.
Excellent.
I know, it's like I don't even need to own a shirt anymore. I can just keep printing numbers and keep putting on 3, 4, 5.
Because that'll be the new crew shirt this year.
Yeah.
Or for that film.
Yeah. So obviously, if you're joining us, you have seen that or heard that Toy Story 4 is coming out. If you have any questions and you happen to be following along on Google Plus directly, you can certainly send a question or a comment right in the comment section, and we will go ahead and answer those as they come in. I'm going to go ahead and launch that on our side so we see it. And then also, if you happen to be watching on YouTube, or if you happen to just not be watching direct, or if you're watching it streaming on our site, any questions or comments that you have, you can send them directly to, right on the bottom of the page here, Pixar Post TS4, and Julie will be monitoring that. Ooh. And any questions that come in or any comments that you have, we can certainly jump on those and handle them. But the news of the day came about when Bob Iger was actually announcing at the Disney Quarterly Call the news of their upcoming slate of films. And among those, he happened to slip in a little bit of information about John Lasseter directing Toy Story 4. So the first thing I wanted to do was actually, through my low-tech method, through my phone here, is I just wanted to play the audio clip. It's about a minute and a half of Bob Iger mentioning and breaking the news, so that way everybody can hear the official announcement from today.
And our animation is stronger than ever as well. In the last 4 years, we've released 7 major animated movies under the Disney and Pixar brands to an average global box office of $750 million, including Frozen, which became the most successful animated movie of all time and a tremendous franchise. Our creative momentum continues with Disney Animation's Big Hero 6. It's a great movie, and given the incredible reviews it's generating, we expect a strong opening weekend when it opens tomorrow. Next June, we'll release Inside Out, a truly innovative original movie from Pixar, and we'll follow that with 3 animated features in fiscal 2016. Pixar's The Good Dinosaur, and Finding Dory, the sequel to Finding Nemo, and Zootopia from Disney Animation. And today, I'm thrilled to announce that John Lasseter will direct another fantastically original Toy Story movie. Toy Story 4 will be in theaters in June 2017. John created Toy Story and directed its first 2 films, and it's great to have him back directing one of our most valuable properties. As you know, Toy Story 3 was a tremendous success, generating wide critical acclaim as well as more than $1 billion in global box office and almost $10 billion in retail sales, demonstrating that these wonderful characters are clearly just as relevant and beloved as ever.
Okay, so there you have it. Pretty interesting stuff, and just crazy news from the day. You'll have to go over to the search function and pull it up that way. But yeah, so again, great news. So how does hearing the official announcement, I know, Jeff, you had said you hadn't had a chance to listen to that today, so how does hearing the official announcement of it hit you?
It's I was excited when I first heard the news. I actually saw it on my wife's computer. She was on Facebook or something, and I saw this little thing come up. It's like, what am I seeing? And I was just really excited. I was excited to see these characters again. And when I read in more about it and found out that Dr. Stanton, Lee Unkrich, and John were all involved in coming up with the idea, how can't you be excited? So,
yeah, I mean, that's certainly big news, and like you said, the people that you want to be in charge of and be running some of the background for this upcoming Toy Story movie are the people that were always there from the beginning of it, from the beginning of the franchise. So it's great to have them back. So Dan, what were your initial thoughts when you heard it?
Yeah, so for me, I was hovering around my computer all day because we had the Star Wars title announcement today from Disney. We had the Into the Woods new trailer. There was the new Hobbit trailer. There was a ton of stuff today. So I was already hovering around the computer, and Brian Hughes, Brian,
yep,
he texted me, and he said, Toy Story 4 is happening. And I was like, what? They've talked about this before. There's been, like, little, rumors about this for so long. And I was just like, seriously? And he's like, seriously, announced on the official D23, blah, blah, blah. And then I immediately went on, because I was already at my computer, like, hovering around all this other stuff. And I saw it. And it was official. I saw the official words and everything from multiple sources, because of course I had to double check with multiple sources, and it turned out to be true.
Yeah.
And I was, like a lot of people, I wasn't down on it because so many people were so negative about it, and there's so much kind of hate out there. But I was more of, like, that it ended so perfectly, it wrapped things up. How could there possibly be more? Where would it go? So I wasn't negative, or I wasn't mad about it, but I was definitely like, where is this going to go? And then once, like Jeff said, once he heard the official statements by John Lasseter and how the crew is coming back, and that kind of his story about how that came to be and how excited he is for it, that's when I got a bit more excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, to put some people's minds at ease, that I assume that the folks at Pixar would have had to have known that there would be some of that, I guess, just that feeling. And so it was great to see in the article that was released, in fact, the official press release information from Pixar included the quote that was passed around on many sites, the D23 site that you mentioned, Dan, and a couple others. It says, "We love these characters so much. They're like family to us. We don't want to do anything with them unless it lives up to or surpasses what's gone before. Toy Story 3 ended Woody and Buzz's story with Andy so perfectly that for a long time we never even talked about doing another Toy Story movie. But when Andrew, Pete, Lee, and I came up with this new idea, I just could not stop thinking about it. It was so exciting to me. I knew we had to make this movie, and I wanted to direct it myself."
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what got me really pumped.
Yeah, absolutely. That certainly helps ease some of that, because initially, I hate to say it, but I had that first initial thought of, like you did, and not in a negative way, but in a way where I just say, well, wait a minute, how can it have anything more? We saw that amazing ending with, Andy going off to college, and we saw him ending, with the goodbye, partner, and all that other stuff, and everybody's leaving the theater crying and everything, and we've talked about it many times. But yeah, so anyways, that's kind of like, our initial, like that was my initial reaction.
We had very similar reactions then, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought of it, okay, we saw that ending, but with every ending, there's a new beginning. So I'm really excited to see what, these crazy brains over at Pixar have to, what story this is going to be. And I mean, it's obviously a story that he's been excited about, and it's been just like festering in his head where he just can't let it go, that he's taking this and running with it. That has me excited.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we actually just had a question come in, which is from Eric Lightyear. Very, very hilarious there. He said, where do you think this movie will start on? So that's actually kind of answered in an article with the Los Angeles Times that Rebecca Keegan did, where she interviewed John Lasseter, and he says, Toy Story 4 will be a love story and will pick up right where Toy Story 3 left off, when Woody, Buzz Lightyear, and the rest of the series' toys, toy chest of characters, were handed down to a little girl named Bonnie. I'm just going to continue with the rest of what he said, like the other part from that article that we thought was interesting. A lot of people in the industry viewing us as doing sequels as being for the business of it, but it's pure passion for us. We only make sequels when we have a story that's as good as or better than the original. We don't just, because of the success of the film, automatically say we're going to do a sequel and then figure out what we're going to do. So I thought that was really cool that he also addressed that too. It's not one of those things that's just left hanging out there and, oh, okay, how are we going to handle this and what's going to come of it? So I thought that was really good too that he handled that. But I guess, Jeff, I'll throw it back to you real quick, and then kind of pairing up with Eric's question that he had, what do you think are... what do you think of it picking up right where it left off with Bonnie?
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to take the story. I'm really going to be excited to see where it all goes. I don't have a lot of... I like that pick. I think that makes sense to pick up where Toy Story 3 left off. The whole idea of a love story is very intriguing to me, and that'll be... I'm excited to see where they go with that.
Sure. You look like you're going to say something?
I don't know. I just have so many ideas swirling in my head where this could go.
Well, let's hear some of them.
Well, no, because there's like 10 of like where this could go. But when I think of a love story, I really think that this time they're not going to focus. At least I don't think they'll focus. I don't think they'll focus around Jessie. I don't think it's going to be focused around Rex. I don't think it's going to be focused around Buzz or Potato Head. I think it's going to be a newer character because all those characters have been featured or focused in either a Toy Story tune or a previous Toy Story film. So I think it's going to be like Ham or one of Bonnie's newer toys, something like that. That's at least what I think, kind of hope.
Okay, all right.
That we get like a newer character, or like one of the old gang that's not like kind of a sideline character gets featured in this film.
Okay, so that makes me think though, because so many people have said for a long time that they love Bonnie. They want to see more of Bonnie. And obviously we only saw her for a pretty short period of time at the end of the film, and then briefly in Partysaurus Rex, and we're going to obviously be seeing some more. Well, we saw a brief in Toy Story of Terror, and a very brief moment in Toy Story That Time Forgot coming up. So I wonder if they're just going to have to, well, if not have to, but if they're going to focus it on Bonnie because of the interest from the crowd and how many people loved her character design and wanted to see more of her.
I think it'll be more focused on the toys, like.
Well, I wouldn't assume she would have the love story element.
No.
But I wonder how much more they're going to have with her too in relation to the toys.
I'm thinking more of like Dolly and Buttercup, those kind of characters.
All right, Dan, what are your thoughts?
As far as where the story's going?
Not only the story, but from picking up right where Toy Story 3 left off, and then also for the love story element.
Okay. Yeah, so I did have a question. As far as picking up right where it left off, we've seen, like we've been mentioning just right now, we've seen shorts and TV specials that have picked up where it left off since then. So when it says right when the last one left off, is that after these other stories have been told now, or is this going to be somewhere in between? That's kind of my first question to bounce back at you.
Yeah, and that's actually hilarious because Eric Lightyear is again asking a question. He's saying, now that Julie said Toy Story tunes, where do they stand now in the Toy Story timeline? So that's exactly what Dan was reiterating there, too. So, okay, you said it. Where do they stand? No, I'm just kidding. So, I mean, yeah.
Are you asking you coming back at me or Julie? Who was that for?
Yeah, no, anybody. I mean, it's a tough question because we have seen these little moments. So where is it going to pick up? You know, is it almost going to go back in time a little bit? I would say since the shorts were so short, my opinion is it's just going to pick up.
I don't think it's going to pick up the moment that Andy leaves. I think it's like it's that same year.
He's saying generally, like it's going to be like after essentially like the Toy Story: The Time Forgot time period.
Yeah,
we see that in December.
Yeah, I technically between, let's see, Partysaurus Rex, Hawaiian Vacation, Small Fry, those are only little moments. Those are only a few hours in a day, if that, or a day long, or whatever the time frame may be. And then Toy Story of Terror seems like, so say summer for those, and then say, you know, around Halloween time for Toy Story of Terror, and then that Time Forgot is obviously Christmas time. So we could only be talking like, what, maybe a year?
Yeah.
Later.
That's what I think. I think it's within that year.
Because also Hawaiian Vacation was in the winter as well. And so I think we've gone a full, once that Time Forgot comes around, I think we've gone a whole year. I don't know.
Oh, no.
No, that's true. That's true, because Hawaiian Vacation, it was snowing at the end.
Mm-hmm. Right. And Partysaurus Rex was summertime. Same with Small Fry.
Right. So a couple other questions coming in from Tom Bowles, and he's got some really good ones. So I'm going to actually go to the most recent one he did first, and then I'll jump back to your other one, Tom, which is, could it be possible that the love story could be between Woody finding Bo Peep or some new love interest with Woody? I don't think that they would bring back Bo Peep, but that would actually be kind of interesting just to see, because why am I blanking this? What happened to her character?
They just said that she was gone. It was kind of like...
They didn't explain.
Yeah, garage sale kind of thing. And
okay, yeah, so he kind of...
She's gone.
Okay. So is that across the group? We feel like there's no Bo Peep happening?
I don't think so. I didn't actually end up answering the love story question. But I also didn't have much to say about it since I have, like Jeff, I have no idea where that could possibly go.
All right, so here's Tom's other question that I kind of like where he's going with it. So you know how it's been talked about, and we talk about it all the time on the podcast and other sources, and other people do too, about how if there's this good idea, Pixar never really lets it go. They try to find another way to put it in. And I think, Jeff, on the last time you were on, you talked about that a little bit too. But Tom's question is, if I remember correctly, before the story of Toy Story 3 was nailed down, there was a story idea involving a Buzz Lightyear toy having been recalled. Mm-hmm. Do you think this could possibly be recycled or altered for Toy Story 4?
I like that idea, actually.
That there could be the recall element?
It could be, but, oh gosh, because I like that too. And I mean, I kind of wish they would, if it's not kind of in this, that would be a good short.
That would be a fantastic short as well. But Jeff, what do you think? Is this something that they could bring that old idea back to life and include it in Toy Story 4 in some way?
I think it's definitely a possibility. But I don't think they will. I don't know why. I don't have any information, but I just the idea of the love story, and I don't see that really fitting in. But like you said, they don't give up on good ideas, and there's a possibility, sure.
Yeah, it seems like it would be interesting to see how they could integrate something like that, especially if it is going to have that love story element, because this would almost be like such a separate story that it would almost be bouncing back and forth between two worlds. But I like the fact that Tom brought that up, though, because it is one of those ideas that could come back up in some way, and I love that idea, and I want to see that made at some point. I want to see something with a recall. I think it would be hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
I think it'd be really funny.
Yeah, absolutely. So you look like you have a comment or question.
We have a couple questions here on Twitter. One of the first ones would be, do you believe that the upcoming Toy Story short films will give us any hints to Toy Story 4? Guys?
Yeah, Dan, what are your thoughts on that one? Any hints that we'll come across that we'll see in Toy Story that time forgot, since that'll be the next one coming up?
I personally wouldn't think so. I think that it's such a short amount of time that they're working with, that they're fully concentrated on that story and not necessarily setting anything up for the next movie. But that's just what I think. I don't think that there's going to be any kind of hints.
Yeah, I don't know if they would. I don't know if they would reveal anything like that. But what do you think?
I don't think so either. I think because the process of doing the shorts and the tunes and the 30-minute specials are so advanced, and it sounds like, Toy Story 4 is not in the early stages by any means, but kind of still in the newer stages.
Right.
That I don't think that they would be able to put any hints or anything in there.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with you there. So let's talk a little bit about.
Well, I have one more.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So Michael Howe said he has a theory. Given that Woody is almost like a widowed father figure, maybe he is the one that gets the new love interest. So we kind of touched on that. So maybe he's the one.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, Michael's a big Pixar fan. He comments on a lot of different things, and he has some good insights. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out.
I'm kind of hoping for maybe Buttercup to make a little bit more of a presence in this film. Who knows?
See, now what's interesting is you've brought up a couple times like some of those like sub-characters too, and it makes me wonder because so many times the movies are dedicated to the main characters, and then the secondary set of characters are supplemental to that. So do you think that they would project and take that, a Buttercup character that was a supporting role, if you will, in Toy Story 3 and move them up to a starring role in 4?
I don't know, but I just thought of this. Okay. Bonnie's a little girl. Maybe Bonnie's in that stage where she's going to start playing with Barbies more. I'm a girl. I played with Barbies when I was little. Barbie has horses. What if Bullseye is the one that has the love interest? But Bullseye doesn't talk. He's kind of like Wally. He just kind of neighs.
Right, and if it's a love well,
I don't know. It's just kind of a silly thought.
It's a silly thought, but you know what? It's kind of like the idea of lava. Where everything starts pairing up, and then your mind starts thinking of everything pairing.
Yeah, I was just thinking of.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's good enough. We'll take it, right?
With like the love speculation so far with like the secondary characters, I can picture those things as maybe just a funny little side thing in the film. But I can't see the entire film revolving around any of that.
Oh no, not at all. Me neither.
No. So I'm just wondering, like, when he says a love story, if he really thinks that the main premise of this is a love story, are we talking about romantic love, or is he referring to maybe family relationship type love?
Ooh.
I like that, Dan.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, see,
me and Britta were talking earlier about the possibility of Andy's kids, because they reference that in Toy Story 3.
They do reference it, but if we're picking up right where Toy Story 3 left off, I don't know that we'd have enough time for that to happen.
That's true.
Well, we could see a montage and time could pass at the beginning.
I don't know.
You never know. They've had their fair share of montages.
Yeah, so I don't know. But I liked that idea until I just realized that it didn't fit in.
Or Andy could fit in college.
Uh-oh.
Oh, and for anybody that's listening that hears the phantom voice there, that's Dan's wife Britta in the background there.
Yeah, she's always doing paperwork at the same time of these things, so.
Yeah, it looks like she's taking a nap, frankly.
Yeah, she's just sitting on the couch doing. She's in her pajamas, but she is joining us for reals for the next book club. So
fantastic! Yes.
So yeah, let's go back to the love thing a little bit.
Well, so one other thing that came up from a love story standpoint is, what if the love is between Bonnie and her first crush, and the toys intervene to help? I'm not so sure on that one, because if they help, how would that I guess they've intervened before with the whole Sid thing.
I just don't know if they do it because Bonnie's like
So young.
6 or 7.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so hard to picture an entire plot based around this.
Yeah, I don't know, but
I
I love your idea of the family element
Yeah, I do too.
and
don't
the
know where
story
it's
of
going,
the
but-
story of love. What if we're talking about, this one just hit me, slight goosebumps. What if we're talking about the Bonnie in Toy Story of Terror is going to visit who?
Grandma.
What if it's a love story between a child and a grandparent?
See, that's what I'm talking about. It could be something more similar to that.
Right. So I'm gonna take from what you're saying, Dan.
And the grandparents give them old toys.
Oh my goodness, I love it.
Oh, I love that. And you know what that kind of goes along with? And I put this on the forum a long time back when I was kind of coming up with new ideas. You remember that post?
Well, remind me of what element of it you're talking of. I know the post you're talking about.
Yeah, the post we were talking about, like the different kind of emotional things they could still do with toys, and one of them was an antique shop. Because when I was at Britta's family's house last Christmas, I was walking around this antique shop. It's in Maryland, so it's very old, very New England-esque. And I saw all these old toys, and I'm like, oh man, if a Toy Story did something in an antique shop, that would be cool. Because I felt bad. I looked at these toys, and I'm like, what is the history from production, from being opened by probably some kid 50 years ago to sitting in this antique shop? That would make a fantastic short or something in the Toy Story universe.
I love that. Yeah, that would
And
be
it's kind
fantastic.
of like how Woody was with the Roundup gang, because they were all like antique still in the box.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I have one more question.
okay.
Michael also was he was asking a question just about the music. Like, who do you think is going to score it?
I hope Randy.
Do you think Randy's coming back?
I'd have to
Thomas Newman? Who do you
I'd have
think?
to-
Michael Giacchino?
I'd have to say Randy's coming back on this one. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd put money on Randy.
Yeah. I mean, he's
got the sound.
he does. I was just, in fact, I was going like this. He's got the sound. He's got that vibe that makes it his own. And I guess if we're looking at timelines and slates of other films, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes, where we're going to talk through, the Pixar slate of what's coming up. The other thing that, one little quick joke that Eric Lightyear had mentioned online is that can Ken get a new girl and basically toss Barbie out to the curb?
Oh no.
No.
That wouldn't happen.
But let's go back to what Julie said about getting new Barbies. Maybe there's a little jealousy going on or something. That would
Yeah.
be.
It could be fun too. There's so many possibilities. And that's why when some of the consternation of people coming up and saying, why are they doing a Toy Story 4? Toy Story 3 was so good, like we talked about. It's like, because there's so many things they can do.
There's so much still out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about it in our post, but we remind people that Toy Story 3, when that was announced, people had very similar reactions. They were not happy about that news. Now let's ask those same people, when they came out of the theater, what were they feeling, and were they okay with Toy Story 3? I would be willing to bet that almost every single one of them, I'd go 99%, said,
Right.
I loved it, and this is fantastic.
Yeah.
So just as a reminder to people that are feeling a little like concerned of what Pixar is going to do to their story, because they feel like, it's like a personal story to people, let's remember that Toy Story 3, which also had some concerns, was amazing. So let's let it play out and see what happens. So before you ask that question,
What question?
I thought you had another
Oh
question.
no,
you were coming up
I
with.
was looking.
Okay, cool. I also want to talk about specifically John Lasseter directing this, because the one thing that I was extremely thrilled to hear it.
Oh, so excited.
And Jeff and I have briefly talked about it ahead of time. It just kind of came up in passing conversation, and I'll throw it to you in a minute, Jeff, about how the heck does he do it with his schedule and everything that he has going on. But the first thing that I thought is, that's fantastic. I'm super excited, but I know Cars 3 is also in development as well.
Yes, and actually,
I want him to develop Cars 3. That's his baby.
yes, and our forum user and Twitter user, Ultimate iPad Expert, actually just mentioned that on Twitter to us.
Oh, cool.
Saying that he's like, will John Lasseter be directing Cars 3? Because I think it's just, we kind of assume. But I will say, when I heard this news today that John Lasseter was doing Toy Story 4, the first person I thought that would be doing Cars was Dan Scanlon.
I thought that as well.
Because he did Mater and the Ghost Light.
Because he's been involved with John in some of the shorts, absolutely.
With Cars. So that's who I thought would take over the helm of Cars 3.
And that could certainly be a possibility. He has the sequel experience. He has the directing experience. He's worked on Cars projects before.
He's from the Motor City.
He's from Detroit. I like that. All right, you're stretching a little, but that's okay. All right.
And he's not tied. He's not tied to any of the other upcoming films that we know of. So that makes a lot of sense.
I like that. But let's talk a little bit
but
about.
But neither is Mark Andrews.
We're gonna get you a special meeting with Mark.
You probably will.
Yeah. So the John Lasseter directing it, Jeff, since we talked about it with his schedule, talk about it from a business standpoint and how he's handling. How the heck is he going to handle this?
I don't know. I mean, that's the question. How does he handle it? How does he do all of this? You know, I don't have an answer. He loves doing this stuff, right? And so it's in his blood. That's what he wants to do. He said that in that press release, that he's just so excited for it and really wanted to be the one to direct it. So,
yeah, that's really exciting that he kind of said, and I wanted to do it. Like, it's like, so you know that he's really got this passion for it. But man, oh man. Oh, go ahead,
I think
Jeff.
a couple other things are that the animation, Walt Disney and Pixar Animation are doing great. So I think they've got a lot of people there who will keep things, if he's not able to maybe spend as much time doing the day-to-day things that he does now, I think they have so many talented people that things will run just fine. So he'll be able to put some extra effort into directing this film.
So I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
Do you think that John decided, hey, not only do I love these characters, I want to take over I want to do Toy Story 4, but do you think he feels like he has the time now that with the just critical acclaim and just so many people love Frozen, Big Hero 6 is now slated to do phenomenal. Do you think he's kind of like, okay, I can take a break from Disney animation for a minute and work on Toy Story 4 and then go back?
Well, that's kind of a little bit of what Jeff was alluding to, that he's got all those people that are in place now that can kind of help that along. So since you and Jeff are kind of thinking along those same lines, I think it has to be something like that. He can't do it all.
I know, right. But he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he definitely has a great team of people that work with him. I mean, you've seen that A Day in the Life of John Lasseter thing where he's reviewing on that iPad on the way to work, footage, and that's just absolutely crazy, all the different levels that he comes into. So talking about directing, so if he's the main director, I would suspect with his duties between Pixar, Disney, and the director of Toy Story 4, that he would also have a co-director on this. I feel like there's going to be a co-director. So,
yep, I agree.
Okay, so Jeff, since you spoke up first, what do you think? Any co-director that stands out to you that could jump on this?
I would say either Bob Peterson or Ralph Eggleston.
Okay. That would be great. That would be great to see either one of them.
I would love to see another Eggleston short.
Yeah.
For the Birds?
Yes.
Yeah. We just watched it again the other day. We were just talking about it. So, yeah, I like those options. Dan, do you have any thoughts on a co-director or anybody else that could be involved? Is it going to be somebody that's maybe newer that's going to be kind of mentored, or is this a Dan Scanlon?
Directors is so hard because there's so many, and there's always so many good options you could go through. Leon co-directed Toy Story or A Bug's Life with him, right?
I believe so.
Yep.
So, but then Lee Unkrich is also working on his own, which hasn't really been heard of much since years ago, his Day of the Dead film. So would that count him out? Would you say that's still heavily in production, that one?
I'd have to think so, only because we haven't heard anything about it. But let's pull up the slate of movies, and maybe you can look at some of those, and let's go through some of those dates.
Co-directed with him before, and he obviously directed Toy Story 3, but now that he has gone to a feature, would he go back down the ladder to a co-director? I don't think he would maybe go back down that way. What do you think?
That's an interesting thought, too. Yeah, I mean,
now that he's done a feature, I don't think people ever go back to being co-directors at that point. Or it doesn't seem that way, the pattern that I've seen.
Right, the pattern hasn't shown that, right.
I think it could be someone, not newer, but someone who maybe hasn't directed like a feature. Mark Walsh, who did Party Source Rex, he could be a co-director. That would be awesome. Rob Gibbs, he's done a lot of the the Cars tunes.
Could he jump into a Cars 3?
Oh, he could do Cars 3. I mean, yeah, because he knows the characters, but Scott Morse, he could do it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's someone from the shorts or someone rising up the ladder, kind of like Lee Unkrich was at the time of co-directing A Bug's Life. And who was the co-director of Toy Story 2 that ended up leaving?
Hold on.
Jan?
No, that was Ratatouille.
Yeah,
that was Jan Pinkava.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But anyway, you know who I'm talking about, but that's going to bug me. But yeah, so he was up and coming as well. So it's going to be somebody
Ash
who...
Brennan? Ash Brennan?
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go. Somebody else is...
like that.
Yeah, Ultimate iPad Expert is jumping in again, and he's saying, how about Angus MacLean or Mark Andrews for a co-director? Angus is certainly a strong possibility.
He's also directing Finding Dory, isn't he?
You know what?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. No. What?
Co-directing Finding Dory.
Oh, but
That's
I was
right.
going to say, Angus was in that picture with John Lasseter, with Rashida Jones. You can see the back inside of him.
Well, that's true. We should probably analyze that picture a little more and see who else is in there.
Yeah. I was really looking at it, and I'm like, that's the back of Angus's head. I could see those glasses.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
I think I like the idea of Mark Walsh, right? Because he's got experience with the characters and has been doing a lot of, just his experience and doing Party Source Rex. I think that makes him a really good candidate.
Yeah, and he did some of the commercials for Toy Story that Time Forgot for like Sky Broadband.
Yeah,
directing that.
That's his thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's been there forever.
Right. I could see that. That's a strong vote.
Oh, that's true. We should
TJ's turning it on the phone.
I'm playing it here. So I want to talk through some of the slate of upcoming movies as well.
Yeah.
And take a look at this. So we've got quite the gamut of films coming out, and I want to know everybody's thoughts as far as where Toy Story. We have a defined date for Toy Story, but we have 3 films that don't have dates. So obviously we all know Inside Out is coming out June 2015. Yep. We have The Good Dinosaur, which, by the way, in Bob Iger's speech, he mentions, with Good Dinosaur coming out in fiscal year 2016, and I had just assumed, oh my gosh, they announced that the date is being pushed back to 2016. But then Stitch Kingdom, Pixar Times, a couple other sites had already researched that, and based on Disney's fiscal year, it would still be. They're still saying that it would be based on end of fourth quarter 2015.
Yes.
So we don't have an official push there at all by any means. So we got Good Dinosaur November 2015. We have Finding Dory with the dates that are very easy to swap and mess up between Toy Story 4 and Finding Dory because it's June 17th, 2016, and Toy Story 4 is June 16th, 2017. So it's just the 16-17 flopped.
Oh, it's funny because they initially messed that up. Remember when I texted you, their initial tweet that went out did say the 17th, and they deleted it like almost immediately. And I was like, where'd it go?
Yeah, that was the official Disney one you said, right?
Yeah, and then it came back like a minute later with the corrected date. So I think even they got that swapped up a little.
Yeah, yeah. So then so again, Finding Dory, June 2016, Toy Story, June 2017. So if they're still trying to keep on track for the 2 films per year, that would leave something coming up in November 2016. So that would leave a slot open there.
I thought that they were going to do an original film every year, and then every 2 years do a sequel.
You're right, yes.
So I think in 2016 they're just having the one film, and Disney has some film or films coming out that year.
Yeah,
so then in
Zootopia.
2017 that we have 2 films. We have Toy Story 4, and then the November 22nd, I think, is the date for the next film.
Right, so if that's the case, do we think that's going to be what we had talked about, what Dan had brought up with Lee Unkrage's film about the Dia de los Muertos holiday? Do we think it's going to be Cars 3? Do we think it's going to be The Incredibles 2?
I'm going for an original film.
November 2017?
It would be around November 2017. So based on it would have to be the original film is based on what Jeff was saying based on the plan.
I would assume that then. Wouldn't we assume maybe the Day of the Dead?
Yeah, it would seem like it.
Because we're supposed to be doing one original film, one sequel per year. Is that was their plan?
Yeah, that was what Jeff was just saying. It's like one sequel, one original, one for year 1, and then year 2 would be another potential for an original. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, so it could be. It's just so funny that we've heard so little about that.
Right. Yeah, it ought to be interesting to see what comes up. But it
wouldn't make sense to have 2 sequels, I don't think, in the same year.
No, that would be interesting for sure. So it would line it up with the slate of what we know. That would be we're of course doing a little bit of guessing with our deduction, but that would plot November 2017 for the Dia de los Muertos movie.
And you know what? The Day of the Dead.
What?
The Day of the Dead, isn't that in November? Isn't that the day after Halloween?
Yeah, it just happened.
So, I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense.
That would be pretty cool if it coincided or was very close to it.
And it's quite a few years away from the 2 films that are just coming out, The Book of Life, and there's a new one that's just been announced.
There's another one coming out like next year. What on earth?
I know.
Like all of a sudden.
I know, but what's funny is they talked about the fact that the other one that's in development right now that's going to be coming out in another year or so. They're saying that they started plotting that out like 2012 or something like that. I mean, it was just crazy stuff. How many of these movies? It's like this idea comes about, and they're like nobody's tackled Dia de los Muertos, and everybody's like, get Dia de los Muertos.
3 of them. It'll be 3 animated Day of the Dead movies in 4 or 5 years.
Right.
At that point.
Yeah, that holiday is going to get some serious press.
So kind of talking about the slate of films, the Ultimate iPad Expert just asked us another question. With Big Hero 6 opening up tomorrow, do you guys think that we're going to get a new Inside Out trailer to cap off this crazy week of insane news?
I will jump in with that start off, and I'll say no. I think it's slated to be the same teaser that we've seen online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we would have heard something. But usually that comes out a bit before. You'll know what movie it's going to be coming out with.
Yeah, that's interesting though. Yeah, I guess we can keep that one back. What do you think?
No.
That wasn't very confident, was it?
I was really thinking about that one.
Yeah, well, that's fair. That's fair. So, other thoughts. What other thoughts do we have? Do we actually jump onto YouTube if you can? Sorry to tell you to jump on there or whatever. But I saw a couple beeps coming through directly on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I was looking at them.
Oh, cool. So, what other thoughts do we have about this? Not only from let's talk about the screenwriters that are going to be coming in on this. So we've got Rashida Jones, and we've got. And what's that, Dan?
Oh, I just said I didn't know either of them. I wasn't familiar with either of their work. So.
Yeah, so Rashida Jones and Will McCormack. So they both co-wrote a movie called Celeste and Jesse Forever.
I believe that was what
Yes.
it's called.
Yep.
Not Celeste. Was it Celeste and Jesse?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of Celestine because last year with the whole the shorts. So they co-wrote that, and Rashida Jones actually starred in it along with Andy Samberg. So they wrote that. Rashida Jones has been on The Office. She was in the movie I Love You, Man.
Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec. Yeah. And
Which she has that Amy Poehler tie. They work together on Parks and Rec.
Okay.
Amy Poehler's the voice of Joy.
Right. Right. And then Will McCormack, I have to say, that was the one that I wasn't familiar with. I knew Rashida Jones. Fun fact, in case anybody doesn't know, her dad is the amazing musician Quincy Jones, just to throw that out there.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who is responsible for most of, and I give him all the credit for Michael Jackson's Thriller album, but that's a whole separate thing. So I wasn't familiar with his work. Do either of you guys know anything about Will?
No, nothing.
No.
I know him.
You know, okay.
I know. I've got
other-
to look up and see why, but I
I
know
didn't know much about Michael Arndt either, honestly, when he came around. So he hadn't
Okay.
done much then.
Right, and to remind people, Michael Arndt was the screenwriter for Toy Story 3. So
It's interesting they're going some new writers, and the Toy Story 2 and the first Toy Story have separate writers other than the Brain Trust.
that I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
believe so.
They had I thought they had a lot of writers because Joss Whedon was a writer,
That's
and
Yeah, you're right.
so this
See,
is
this is why Jeff is here from this day in Pixar, because he's got the history down.
I have a website. Okay, I go to a website.
All right, so what else were you going to say on that, Jeff, with Joss Whedon and after that?
Let's see, screenplay. So Toy Story was Joss, Joel Cohen, Alex. I don't know how to say his last name, but I think I was going to say that this is. I think they've done this often where they brought in outside writers.
Mm-hmm. So almost for every Toy Story movie then now, at this point.
So what I found interesting about it, though, and what kind of intrigued me the most is that these are, in terms of writers, Rashida's had her hand in many an acting role, but as far as from a writing standpoint, and even with Will, according to IMDb, which of course is not the source of everything, but from what we looked up on them, they have relatively few or lighter writing history and writing background as far as bigger, larger screenplays. So it makes me wonder, they must have some serious strength in them, and they must have seen something that they did in that Celeste and oh god, I got it all
Celeste
screwed
and
up.
Jesse Forever.
Jesse Forever again, because they had to have seen something in them to bring them in because they're relatively newer to this. So that kind of was something that also piqued my interest and said, wow, what is going to happen with this to bring this younger vibe into bringing a love story in? This makes me want to watch that movie because that movie is a love story.
Yeah.
So they must have seen something about the grassroots way that they wrote that movie, and now I totally am going to watch that. I challenge everybody else to check it out too. So Dan, did you have any thoughts on that with like these two writers that you said you didn't know too much about Michael Arndt ahead of time, but knowing that they're newer to the writing arena, does that raise any flags or cause any type of concern for you at all?
No, I feel like there's so many up-and-coming writers that are a lot of first-time or new writers hit their stride right off the bat. There's so many writers that are so good when they first start off, and they actually, as they get older and get more experience, they actually go backwards and they actually go downhill. I've seen that a lot. So I think that it's actually good to bring in new talent. They're fresh and they have a lot of new ideas, and I think that even though I don't know anything about them, I think that it's a good idea. They obviously have faith in them, so I have faith in them.
That's true. Yeah, and we do too, for sure. It's just wanted to bring that up. Jeff, from your standpoint at all, did that, how did you feel about that when you heard that part from the screenwriters?
I agree with Dan. I think it's bring in fresh people, fresh ideas. That's sort of a Pixar thing, right? When they brought Brad Bird in, they're always looking to try new things. So I think it's a great idea.
Love it. You have any thoughts on that one? I love Rashida Jones, and I love her sense of humor. So I think that's going to be great to bring.
No, I think it's always interesting, getting new, fresh perspective. Not saying anything bad about anybody that's in the writing screenplay thing at Pixar. I think they'll just make a great team collaboration with just a different perspective. So I think that'll be kind of fun and interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I also wanted to talk about the producer, Galen Sussman.
Absolutely.
Returning to produce more Toy Story things.
Right, because what did she produce before?
Toy Story she's doing Toy Story of Terror. She did Toy Story of Terror.
And then Toy Story That Time Forgot.
That's what she's doing.
Yeah, and so she's been involved at at the associate producer level for Ratatouille, and she's produced several of the shorts all the way up. So that's a definite change for her too, because obviously to bring somebody in, but obviously they've worked with her for a long time. She's a veteran within the studio, so it kind of makes sense that.
She's done quite a few shorts.
Right. Yeah. Which other?
She's done Hawaiian Vacation, which is also in that Toy Story franchise.
Right.
Which is perfect. I mean, she's gonna be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt.
It also makes sense with her producing, since she has done a lot of shorts and the TV specials. It does make sense to bring on another director of one of the shorts to be the co-director to kind of fit in with that. So it goes along.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're thinking about the co-director standpoint of it again, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're coming up to about an hour that we've been on. Have we seen any other? If anybody has any last-minute questions or anything like that, Julie will just double-check again. But Pixar post TS4 on Twitter in case anything else comes through. But
someone did ask where you got your shirt.
Which one? The 4? My amazing creation of Toy Story 4? Let me go ahead and fix that again. I think we need to maybe center it a little more. Yeah, so this one was actually from the studio store. It's a Toy Story 3 one. And then underneath is actually the employee shirt that was given out for Toy Story 3. And this was, I hate to say it, but the mother of all eBay auctions, where we got the biggest boatload of Pixar-related shirts for next to nothing. Yeah.
I haven't heard about that before.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they were all his size.
Yeah, they were pretty close. I mean, there's one or two that's a little bit bigger, but yeah, I got luckier than luck can be, and feel very lucky about that. I heard a buzz come in, so we'll see if we've got one more there. But I guess just any closing thoughts. Oh, I guess let's talk a little bit. Well, I guess we kind of have talked about it a little bit, so I don't want to dig into it too much. But again, the other comment that Mac95 said, who's a great commenter on our site and then also on the forum, he mentioned that he was concerned right off the bat when he heard that news. So hopefully, if you're watching along and you happen to see some of this, hopefully we've helped interject a little bit. But it certainly is okay. Everybody is open to their own opinion. We're going to keep an open mind in regards to this, that some people, like I said at the beginning, are going to have those concerns that Pixar could be playing with their emotional friends that they've built and these relationships that they've built with these stories over time.
I'm just excited. I'm so excited to see John Lasseter back at the helm again.
I think that is the thing. I think that's the part that got me the most invigorated about it as well, is hearing that John was going to be back in the directing seat. Because not only do you think about it like we were talking about with Dan and Jeff about his schedule and how he's going to balance all that, but I think it's great just having his viewpoint in there. Although it means that more than likely 99.9% he's not going to be doing Cars 3, which kind of makes me tear up a little too. So I guess any closing thoughts or anything else that you can think of from the article that we didn't chat about or anything?
No, I mean, I just think, story is key over at Pixar. We've talked about it so many times, and I don't have any qualms. I don't have any second thoughts, because as soon as you have second thoughts, you're just going to be surprised at the end. So I'm really excited.
And shall we note that, again, not only fans that commented about Toy Story 3, but we have had from seeing previews in the past.
I had second thoughts about WALL-E. That's why I don't have second thoughts anymore, and that's one of my favorites. Yeah. And Brave.
That's awesome. So, Dan, any closing thoughts and or comments or things that you had maybe thought of that we didn't cover in today's discussion?
Something I was thinking about is, I saw a couple people mention this on Twitter and different places, but Is this the start of a new trilogy? And if so, is it the Bonnie trilogy? And are they going to go through her arc like they did with Andy's and have her grow up and the toys grow up and the new toys grow up?
Okay, Jeff, I'm going to throw that right over to you.
Boy, that seems like a possibility. Wouldn't that be fun to go through a trilogy? Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm just trying to get my head around number 4, and now we're talking about 6. So
Yeah,
handle this.
No, but I love that idea because Bonnie is. Here's our cat again.
Sorry.
She makes
at least one appearance every
she makes an appearance in every Google Hangout. So here she is. But yeah, I do love that idea because I mean, just the character development on Bonnie alone and her toys that she brought to the group, Mr. Pricklepants for me, is just.
What if he finds love? Because he's so Shakespearean.
Oh, it could be like it could be like a little play on Romeo and Juliet.
I still think that it's going to be family love.
Yeah, after Dan said that, everything else is derailed, and I'm sorry if it's not. When we go to the theater, I'm going to be like, they should have listened to Dan.
Where's the grandma?
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of what prompted that, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense to do more of a trilogy of movies, because 4 seems like such a random number to end on, because this seems like the beginning. They've wrapped up Andy's arc. That ship has sailed. So to make a 4th and to make just a standalone story that wraps up in just one film, it seems kind of an odd number. You know, it seems like with a story, usually there's a beginning, middle, and end, which usually makes up a trilogy. Sometimes longer sagas like Harry Potter, but it seems like it's the start of something new to me. 4 just seems too random to end on. I don't know.
Of course it does. I mean, today we heard that the new name for the Star Wars film.
Right.
So Toy Story could be the next Star Wars franchise, and it just keeps going and going.
And that's the thing. That's the same with Star Wars, because the Star Wars trilogy was wrapped up. The story, for the most part, that was concluded in Return of the Jedi, and now this separate trilogy now is going to deal with a whole new arc, and that's kind of how I feel like the direction's going with this, possibly.
I like it. I like that idea, and obviously we don't know who mentioned that, but like you said, you'd seen people saying that online. But I love that thought. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say, Dan? Then before that?
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, a couple of places. I didn't have a specific source or anything.
Yeah, that's cool. And talking about Toy Story and the toys, Eric brought up Eric Lightyear again. He says, I'm a Toy Story collector. I collect the Toy Story Signature Collection line and actual toys. Do you think this will help get new signature toys done? I would assume so. I mean, if they did a toy line for Hawaiian Vacation and those types of things, if they can do it for a short through the official Thinkway toy line, I would assume that this would bring out more. I mean, they did.
Yeah, but Partysaurus Rex only got the one boat.
That's true, and that wasn't a Thinkway.
I'm still trying to make a kid-friendly Partysaurus Rex toy.
Yeah, the shorts get a little bit of love, but the features is going to get a lot of love as far as the toys, for sure.
Yeah, I would have to think, because with 3 they had Pricklepants, they had Buttercup, they made all the Dolly, they made all those. So I have to assume that they're going to make another line. So Eric, rest assured,
fingers crossed.
Along with us, we certainly.
Oh, they're making the Battlesaurs too.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And they're making the Battlesaurs.
No, that Thinkway toys. I check their website all the time to see if that link is active yet for the.
I do too. I do too.
Like every day.
Oh, you beat me then.
Well,
I'm like once a week.
They're like my normal things that I check, and that's just kind of in my tab. So I'm like, oh, I'll check today because it's like less than a month away. It's got to be coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
I know. It's definitely on people's radars. So you've had some good thoughts there on things that you had seen. What else did you see, or did you have anything else that that you thought of, Dan?
Not that goes along with what we've been talking about. They're kind of random thoughts. Like another thought I had is, and I'm sure you've seen it. You've seen the old Circle 7 concept art of some of the toys they had designed.
Yep.
I know you guys were talking earlier about ideas that could come back from those old Circle 7 plots and characters. And maybe not so much the initial plot of the recall or anything, but it will be interesting to see, looking back at that old concept art from the old Toy Story 3, if any of those designs come back. Because there were some pretty cool designs if you've seen those.
Yeah, there were really cool designs. That's a tough call on the Circle 7 side of it, though, because that wasn't officially Pixar in-house.
That's true.
So that'll be interesting to
They-
see.
Didn't they get some ideas from? I thought I remember reading or seeing something that that some of the ideas that they were working on at Circle 7 did actually pop up in Toy Story 3.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I don't
I'll have to get
remember.
it.
Just look up the concept art again, because I actually hope that it's some. I think there was like a scissor. There were some weird kind of mutant ones. I think again. Like I remember some kind of scissor toy. There's a couple of them. I'll have to look it up again, but I'm just thinking that maybe some of the old designs and concepts will come back.
All right, so I'll throw this out there then. I think that discussion should absolutely continue, and let's continue it in the forum. Let's talk about some of that Circle 7 stuff. Let's bring in some of that concept art.
I love
Yeah.
And let's dig into it, because then we can have the pictures and the discussion right there too. So anybody listening, it's going on the forum under the Toy Story 4 section. So for sure, that's a great idea, Dan.
Cool. Yeah, and that pretty much wraps up everything that I was thinking, I think.
Cool. Jeff, anything that you had just kind of thinking, any last-minute thoughts, anything for Toy Story 4?
Nothing. We seem to cover it quite well, so nothing that I'm thinking of right now. I'm still thinking about upcoming films and directors, and we kind of, touched on a little bit of that. I'm wondering what Mark Andrews is working on. I was actually thinking, I'm actually thinking maybe The Incredibles 2. So
You're thinking
Oh.
director of Incredibles 2.
no Brad Bird as the director.
Brad will write it. I don't know if he'll direct it.
Well, because Mark was
Very-
brought in to do storyboards on The Incredibles, because Mark was doing feature films. He wasn't in animation yet.
For the first Incredibles.
For the first Incredibles.
That's interesting.
Didn't Mark come with Brad from Warner Brothers? Didn't he work on Iron Giant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have a good history, and I think Brad would feel comfortable with Mark running, with the film and everything.
I dig it.
So do you
I'm
think
with
that
you.
Brad is working then on something else?
I don't know. I mean, definitely writing, work on writing, but he's got Tomorrowland and seems to have quite a few other
He does a lot of
non-Pixar
live
related.
action, yeah.
I would love to see him do something at Pixar again. I love Ratatouille and The Incredibles.
Yeah, let's put it this way. As much as I absolutely love Mark Andrews, I can't say anything bad about him. I want to see Brad Bird. I agree with Dan. I want to see Brad Bird do another Pixar film because, again, Ratatouille is absolutely one of my favorites. I love everything about
He's so
that.
artistic. He has such an
Right,
artistic...
But then you have the energy that Mark Andrews has. I mean,
he's going to bring a lot of that energy, and he has all those fight sequences that...
Yeah, and he's really into all that stuff. When you've seen weaponry and samurai things that he's posted, I'm with you, Jeff. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to say, Jeff,
I hope so.
that right there is the one that's going to brain bend me for the rest of the night, and I'm going to be thinking about that one until
We need
hear
to
some
time
more.
capsule this so we can open it up in the future.
So was it not confirmed, though? That I thought he was writing and directing. Was it only writing that was confirmed?
I think it was just that it was happening.
Oh, I thought that Brad Bird was back for it.
I don't remember that myself. I remember that he said he wasn't going to do it unless he had a good enough idea, and he felt like he did now. But either way, I like the idea. I want to, yeah, that's good. That's good. It's deep. I like it, Jeff. It is good because he could fit in that role. I can hear Dan's brain feverishly coming up with that post now to see.
Maybe.
So what I have written down is that Brad Bird is working on the story. That's all it said.
I see.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. That's interesting. But like I said, I do, and I have to go back to my Ratatouille comment. As much as I give Brad Bird the credit for that, obviously, if you have been reading the Art of Ratatouille, and we have been delinquent on updating our site saying that's the next book club post that's coming up, so it will be updated by the end of this week. And we will be doing that giveaway for the Art of Ratatouille, the copy of it. But Brad even does go into some brilliant background talking about how Jan Pinkava's work in creating the look of the characters, and he formed so much of that. And that is, the look of those characters is so unique. That's what I really kind of drew in from like that puppety look. So that's a little bit of an insight into the art of Ratatouille as well. But yeah, I want to see Brad Bird direct another one. So
well, and to do the flip side of it, if Pixar's going to do an original film a year, who do they have to direct after, we get through Toy Story 4? We said there's another one, an original film coming in November of 2017. Who do they have to direct then some new original films? So maybe Mark's doing an original.
Like more sequels on the slate than original films, so it seems like there's got to be some more in there somewhere.
Well, we did also hear when they were, if I remember properly, back to The Good Dinosaur, when that whole director moving and shaking was going on, I remember them saying something to the effect of Mark Andrews is working on, and he got kicked right, and not kicked right onto, he started his own project, and if I remember, there was an interview at the end, kind of wrap up of Brave, where he talked about that he's moving on to another project as well. That's an original. So I don't know, where that's going either. There's so many of these things that are up in the air. But yeah, it sounds like there's another movie that we don't know about yet. That's kind of out there.
Oh, I'm sure there's like 10.
Oh yeah, well, they certainly have many in the pipeline. But if we're talking about a 2017 release, yet we're talking about Incredibles 2 and Cars 3. Those are even further than that. So it will be interesting to see what maybe sneaks in 2017 or 2018.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be about that time soon to get that announcement.
Right.
Usually they do that about 3 years in advance, 2 or 3.
Yeah, it kind of changes from time to time. Just as far as hearing some final comments in the out in the either Twitter or on Google Plus as well. We're hearing Brad Bird. Eric Lightier saying again he'd love to see Brad Bird come back, and then he's actually teasing for us a little bit in the Circle 7 concept art. This is what it is, and now that he's talking about this, is bringing it up that Lotso was a character. There was a Lotso-like character from there, and Dolly-like character that was from there as well. But I remember that even in Toy Story 1, they were talking about that the Lotso character had come from that time frame as well. So yeah, that's something we're definitely gonna have to dig into more. So
yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
We had one more question. It was kind of silly. Our cat that made an appearance here, someone said, please tell me that cat has a Pixar name. Yes.
Oh, have you? Yeah. Apparently this is your first time viewing, because yes, every time we talk about it, she absolutely does.
Yes, she does. We got our cat when Monsters, Inc. came out, and her name is Monster, after Monsters, Inc. So, yes.
So yeah, Pixar name.
Yeah, she's named after a Pixar film.
Yeah. And even though I will say this, Toy Story 3, I got the garb on. I love. It's not a Pixar-related name, but I love Lee Unkrach's dog's name.
Waffles?
Yes! Waffles! That's a hilarious name.
That's a great name.
I know. So, yeah, I've always said if we get a dog, it has to be Waffles now, and I'm just going to... Sorry, I just got to steal the name now. Okay, cool. So we're going to wrap this up for now. But fantastic discussion. I love the areas that we weaved in and out of between directors, co-directors, talking through the slate, talking about the writers, and then also I love that we didn't even I didn't think about it. We didn't put it in the post at all. Was about the composer as well. If it's going to be Randy Newman, the consensus across the board here is Randy Newman. You mentioned Thomas Newman, but I think he's still doing Finding Dory as.
Yeah, I think he's stuck with Stanton.
Yeah, Andrew Stanton said. He tweeted about it before that Finding Nemo, Finding Dory is Thomas Newman. So, yeah, he certainly is going to be there. But love the conversation. Great stuff. Great questions from the audience. Thank you very much for tweeting and listing them in the Google Hangout. And just signing off as usual before we jump off, Jeff, go ahead and give everybody what your Pixar website is again and what types of posts you do from time to time.
Yeah, it's been a little... not quite as consistent lately, but the website is thisdayinpixar.com, and on Twitter it's thisdayinpixar, and usually historical posts and talking about the merger between Disney and Pixar or older history. So.
And I think with this Toy Story news, we had you come on episode 15 of our podcast and do a very in-depth look where we bounced back and forth between the history of Monsters, Inc., But with all this Toy Story news, I think after the new year, when the Pixar Pipeline project ends and we finish our last interview with that, I think we're going to have you on and do a history of Toy Story to kind of circle back with some more of this discussion that we're having. So start gearing up.
Okay, cool. That would be awesome.
Cool. And then Dan, so before we sign off, go ahead and give people where they can find you, your website, and then also some of the posts and what you typically do on your site.
Mm-hmm. So I know there's some, you had mentioned someone was tweeting in or something, he was a Toy Story collector, so I know that there's some collectors out there. That's what my site's all about. It's Pixar collecting. It's all sorts of Pixar merchandise and toys and collectibles, things like that, and it's all my personal collection, and when I get an item, I post about it on my blog, and I categorize it by movie, and have fun writing a review for people to see and view different Pixar items that are out there, and hopefully answer a lot of questions that people have about it.
And what's your... Yeah, sorry, I think I was cutting you off right when you were saying it there. And what is your website address, and what's your Twitter handle?
Yeah, it's danthepixarfan.com, and the Twitter handle is @PixarFanDan.
There we go. So absolutely.
He has everything.
Yeah, and yes, he mentions that it's his personal collection, but what's really cool about it is that he does a post every day. So he's got this massive Pixar collection, and because of the posts that Dan has done, we've had to step up our game a little bit, and he's made us have to buy some stuff that, you know, we kind of we're like, dang it, we didn't even know that existed, or we forgot about that. So
he has a great vintage Pixar collection too.
Yeah, certainly the original Toy Story pop-up book, that was a great one. I kind of snuck that in and gave it to Julie as a Christmas gift last year.
I remember that was a hit with you guys.
Yeah, and then the Bugs Life playset, that was another one that we were like, okay, we've got to get this Bugs Life playset.
We bought it on eBay.
That always come up.
Yeah, well, and then we didn't even have the Cars Land playsets, so we didn't have those.
Or
so
the
Pez
Cat.
The Pez Cat you did point out to us as well. Which...
We've spent a lot of money because of you.
Well, that's kind of that's the fun of it for me, and I'm glad that you guys get something out of it, because for me that was the whole point, is to show other fans out there that there's some great and fun merch out there that a lot of people aren't even aware of, and it's so fun seeing people say, oh, I didn't even know about that, where can I get that, you know? So it's just been a blast for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely, if you haven't checked it out, danthepixarfan.com. And he's kind of inspired us with our Tumblr page that we started not too long ago. So if you're watching this and you haven't seen us, that we're on Tumblr. If you just go to our website, pixarpost.com, there's in the social area and in the links up top, there's the Tumblr link. And we're kind of using that as not only our news portion, but also for some products as well. Where Dan's site talks about new and historical products, we're taking it as new products that hit the Disney store, or rare stuff that might find it on eBay, those types of things. We want to let you know that it's out there and that you can get it. So we're doing just simple links to new products that come out from there. And there's a button right on the Tumblr page, kind of underneath where our logo is, that says like Disney or Pixar Disney products or Pixar products link. And if you click that, it filters out all the other news, filters out everything else, and just shows you the Pixar products in chronological order as we've listed them. So we're certainly going to be updating that quite a bit as the Christmas season comes up and more things, new products are hitting the Disney store. And then if for some reason Dan does a great review of one of those products, we'll be posting them on our Tumblr page as well and doing some of that. So we just wanted to have another way to kind of bring in some alternates and more ways to touch base with everybody. So certainly thank you again to Dan, Jeff, for joining us. Thank you to Julie, I don't know, for wearing your Toy Story garb as well.
Yes.
I just noticed that. How did I miss that before?
Oh, sorry, I'm hiding behind the mic.
Let's see it. I love it. Is that Studio Store as well?
No, I think this is circa Hot Topic, maybe 2000. The year 2000.
Okay.
It's vintage.
It sounds like one that should be on your site, Dan. Yeah, it sounds like you should have this on a post on yours. All right.
Well, I don't have girls' clothes yet, but maybe when I have it.
Your wife's there. She can have some of them.
She actually doesn't have any Pixar clothes.
What?
What?
I know.
You gotta fix that.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff even showed up. Jeff showed up wearing his Monsters U sweatshirt here.
He's got Buzz in the background.
I don't have anything. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't even wear a Pixar shirt today. I was just so rushed. I feel bad.
Well, the news hit us all kind of by surprise. Well, thank you again to everybody that joined for some great questions and conversation. And signing off as usual, I'm TJ.
And I'm Julie.
And be sure to stay tuned to PixarPost.com all week for the latest Pixar news. Bye-bye.